All right, are we ready to celebrate? All right, here we go. I think I have nine things that we can celebrate.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 19th. This is the first episode of our third season. I'm Eric Planey.
Hi, I'm Lucas Finko.
And as our first guest of season 3 in this new year, we have a good friend, Lorry Wagner. And together, we are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Yarr. Yarr.
Some of our guests are a little skeptical on doing the yar, Lorry, but as time goes on.
Okay, yar.
There you go. Trust me, by the end, we can't get them to stop yarring at the end of the episode. Well, first off, Happy New Year to everybody. This, as we just said, this is our first episode of season 3. And it's really shaping up to be a fantastic season. There's so much momentum in what we are doing. And we want to thank many of our listeners. We got some data over the course of the holiday, and we're approaching 2,000 listeners an episode on average, near just under that. And that for us is fantastic. And we can't do what we are doing without the support of our listeners. So to that, we want to say thank you.
Yep. And we also found out that a lot of our listeners skew female. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have you.
You know, we could say something about our natural good looks, of course, is bringing the audience, but
not on YouTube.
Nobody actually watches us on YouTube. So, but speaking of a handsome devil, that's right. So speaking of a handsome devil, I'm really happy that our first guest is a good friend of mine that goes back many years to our Northeast Ohio days. And this is Lorry Wagner. And Lorry, why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background and where you are now?
Okay, well, I'm an engineer by training. I come from fusion energy when it was only 10 years away. You know, we were going to build power plants in the early 80s. And of course, that didn't happen. So I spent some time in the nuclear industry, then industrial automation. And then 2005, I became involved in the wind energy industry. Locally, and there was this dream to build an offshore project and an industry around it. And following what had been done in Europe since 1991, and it really started became an effort in earnest to where there were significant development funds put in 2010. And our goal was to build the Icebreaker project, which was a demonstration project, one of several Department of Energy projects that won the Advanced Technology Award. And so we learned through the School of Hard Knocks what it's like to permit and engineer and design and get a project out of the water and what it really takes as a developer.
Well, when I met you through LEADCO, which is the organization Lake Erie Economic Development Company. And that was really the genesis of our conversations about doing offshore wind in the United States. And especially, if I remember, Icebreaker is the first freshwater project in the United States. And that was really a big effort. And now you've migrated from Icebreaker and LEADCO to a new organization. Tell us a little bit about Ventolines. And make sure I'm saying it correctly. Is it Ventolines?
Yeah, well, technically it's Ventolines, but most people, including employees, call it Ventolines, just like it's spelled. So, it is whatever you want to call it. Ventolines is the world leader in freshwater wind farms. And while at Icebreaker in the, 07 timeframe, we could have been the first one in the world. But, then it migrated the first one in the US. But so Ventolines has been a developer. They've been, some of the principals have been owners of wind farms, and they've been very successful building lake projects using the feeder vessel system, building in environments where you don't have the large ships, things like that. So you want to say limitations. And how do you build a project economically when each one is not as easy? Not that any offshore wind project is easy, but you have certain limitations by being in a lake.
But most of they're European based, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, based out of the Netherlands.
Right.
And right now we're putting up our second project in IJsselmeer, which is one of the largest lakes in Europe. And it's an 89 turbine project, just to give you an idea of scale. And so good sized project. And they've done other projects. Advisory services is primarily the role that we have. Besides development, we're really focusing on the advisory services. And as we look to the US, it's strictly that area, and transferring our lessons learned from both the feeder system as well as lakes. And as a matter of fact, Block Island, the first project in the US, we were the turbine package manager and helped develop the feeder system to bring the components out to the wind farm, then erect it, and then go back and get some more. So kind of an interesting history of the company.
Yeah, I'll ask a question, then I'll turn over to Lucas. I don't want to monopolize, but you kind of hit, Lorry, on where I wanted to go with this conversation, which is obviously the United States is relatively behind the rest of the world on offshore wind. Block Island, of course, was one of those success stories that are few and far between. You guys have been, in your predecessor role, really doing a strong job of trying to develop off of the Great Lakes. There does seem to be momentum now, finally, change of administration, certain governors really kind of breaking through and pushing offshore wind. Do you think there is a lot of lessons still to be learned from Europe that we can transfer that kind of intellectual know-how very quickly? And do you see us catching up quickly now that people really are starting to buy into wind and solar, and especially offshore wind?
Wow, that's like 8 questions. No, I'll try to go through that, and hit me if I miss something. The U.S. industry has come a long way. There's something on the order of 16 projects that are in real phases of development, which is pretty fantastic. And it's there's been some good policy, but I think now we're on the verge of having some great policy where we both have the a tax credit environment, as well as an administration and Congress that are synchronized in what we're trying to do. So we are on the verge of some really good things on projects going forward. That being said, as we build an American industry, there's a real strong desire from everybody to build the American teams. And so you get a lot of oil and gas people, you get a lot of brilliant, good people who know how to do projects, but they haven't built an offshore wind project. So it's like anything. The first time you do something, there's a lot of learning. And so there is a need to have, shall we say, the things not to do, the lessons learned, the best practices, to bring that over from Europe and integrate that into these American teams, because it is all about building the US industry. So it's a hybrid situation. And as we get projects built, then we will have our own lessons learned, our own environment. And, we're looking at some great strides in the next 2 to 4 years.
Fantastic. Lucas, what do you think?
Yeah, Laura, I was wondering if you could expand a little more on the future. What do you see as the barriers, and what kind of successes do you see coming up in the future for offshore wind or wind in the US?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to touch on is that in just about every country in the world where offshore wind is, and there's Vietnam, there's Korea, there's China, there's Japan, there's all the European countries, you typically have a national policy, a framework that goes across the nation. Mm. And then you typically have some, even though environmental always starts local, and it is all about what's happening at the local level, but you still also have a national framework that once a decision is made, you're done. Now, every country isn't exactly like that. So if you come back to the US, we have like 50 countries when it comes to policy. So in the offshore wind space, you have Maine, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, they all have their own mechanism for encouraging offshore wind development. So you have that challenge. And of course, each state wants to be the winner. They want the supply chain, they want the jobs, they want the energy. So, developing that environment creates its own challenges. So, if one state makes awards based on supply chain development, which makes a lot of sense, and the state next to them just did that award, and they got all kinds of factories or shipbuilding, it becomes a real challenge to make it work. I mean, we'll figure it out, but those are some of the things that make it hard to go, shall we say, like we're catching up. We have to do our own pace and learn what's right and what works. And I think a lot of people are thinking that, over the next 4 or 5 years, as we work through some of these things, and the states are starting to work together. So there's kind of a New England coalition. And I think those are the kinds of things that will make a huge difference in the industry. So that's kind of the big picture. The other is the practical thing. Most of the components are made in Europe. That will change eventually, same as, onshore wind started that way. And so now we have a lot of the components made here. The biggest challenge is building the vessels. So to build an offshore wind farm and do it as economically as possible, you have these built for purpose vessels. And, you call them a turbine installation vessel or a jackup vessel. They have big legs. They can put them down in 200 feet of water. They have 3,000-ton cranes. They can put up these monster turbines. And the US doesn't have any of those vessels yet. There's one being built by Dominion. So the beginning of the industry, as in Block Island, a European ship was contracted and it came to the US, planted itself offshore. And because of the Jones Act, it could, the methodology, at least to this stage in Europe, is, the installation vessel picks the stuff up at the port, takes it out, puts it up, goes back and gets some more. Well, in our case, we have a feeder vessel system. In other words, the installation vessel parks offshore at the turbine site. US vessels then pick up the components, take them out, transfer them, and come back. And the interesting thing about that is, from my perspective, as Ventolines, we've done 3 projects like that already, including one in the US. And so at first, everybody was like, oh, geez, feeder vessels and all of this and all of that, this is just archaic, it's never going to work. And over the last couple of years, I've been reading a lot of comments from both Europeans and Americans saying, that might even be a better way. Because if you think about the installation vessel, if it's only doing installation and it's not sailing back and forth, if you can get the parts out there fast enough, it can be installing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Easier said than done, but there's a lot of interest in that. Would become the American way of advancing the industry. And, you're still going to need the big vessels. And Dominion Energy is building the first one. So, that's a great start, and they've taken a leadership role in the industry. But, those are some of the things as you look at going forward. How do you build it? A lot of challenges, but, there are challenges no matter where you go.
So, it's fascinating because we have a new administration being sworn in tomorrow that seems to be very pro on green energy. If you had to give a message to the Biden administration, kind of a wish list of what you would like to see to make development faster, maybe your top 3, because I don't know if anyone is thinking about supply chain vessels, et cetera, except for a handful of developers on site. What would be your wish list to the Biden administration to help make offshore wind faster and more prolific?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I'm part of the business network for offshore wind. I'm a board member. And last week we had our Leadership 100 meeting, which is some of the leading people from Europe and the US that are all trying to build an American business. And we asked ourselves the same questions. What will get this industry to go? And one of the biggest challenges is being able to get the permits in a regular fashion and to be able to do multiple projects in parallel. That's easy to say, but you need to hire more people. You need to scale up. So that's certainly on the wish list, is to give the government agencies the resources they need, and they know what they need to help the industry move forward. I would say there's other areas in terms of grid and transmission. There's not really a lot of places to plug in. So what happens when you use them all up and we have, say, 3 times as many projects, potentially 3 times as many gigawatts as you can plug into existing plants? So, and then that becomes a FERC issue, a national regulatory issue. But then the grid, as you well know, it's New York ISO, it's New England, it's PJM. So you have different grids, and then you have each state. So the thing that the administration could do is help that conversation take place with FERC and all the stakeholders and see if we can come up with a plan that works for each of those stakeholders.
Interesting. Do you think that's a great segue? Do you think storage will be a short-term solution while we're working through all these regulatory connections? Meaning if you have storage next to the project onshore, battery storage, can that be a way in which you're solving the grid issues while simultaneously building out quickly offshore wind?
I would say probably. The challenge is, how do you get to shore? Where do you plug in, and dump the electrons from the offshore wind farm? But you're right that if you can plug into a place and you can manage the grid, so to speak, with storage, that provides you another lever to do the project. And in fact, that's what is done in some of the European countries, because they have great locations for projects and sometimes the grid hasn't caught up. So they're thinking about different ideas on how to do that. So that's certainly a method. I think overall storage is going to be huge for a lot of industries. So, along with hydrogen generation is another aspect that maybe makes a lot of sense, and then gets the oil and gas companies involved at a different level.
I'm smiling because if anyone's been a listener to our podcast, we've been talking about green hydrogen all throughout the summer, because people, all of a sudden, that is the topic du jour in green energy right now. And so, we're trying to educate ourselves and our listeners as time goes on. But it's remarkable how everyone is now talking about wind and solar to power green hydrogen efforts. And Lucas, anything? I know we're wrapping up here really quickly. Any other final question for Lorry?
No, not for me. It's just really cool to get the perspective on wind and to hear some practical information about how we can make wind work better. So really cool to have you, Lorry.
Well, thank you. This is good. I love talking about offshore wind, and it really is a great industry with this marriage of lessons learned and the American way. And how many times do you get to build a new industry in your own country or be part of that? And so that's very exciting.
It's been a long time. So, but I do have one last question. It's multiple choice.
Okay.
Who will win the next championship in the city of Cleveland? Will it be the Cavaliers, the Indians, or the Browns?
Oh, you're rough.
That's gonna be your hardest question of the day. Let me tell you.
The hardest question of the day. I guess based on history, I would say the Indians have the best chance because they always get so close and they've got, great ownership, great coaching. But that being said, the Browns have shown that they are on that upward trajectory. So I guess if you're going to make me pick, I'd say the Browns.
All right. Well, we will certainly hold that comment, hold you to it. So,
wow, the Browns.
Yeah.
Lorry, I want to say thank you. You've always been so considerate to me over the years whenever I needed, back when I had my banker hat on, when I had my economic development hat on. And I wish you so much success. And it's great to know we have such seasoned professionals like yourself acting as a catalyst for a new industry in America, like you said. So, you may want to stay tuned to our next week's guest. We won't say who it is.
Oh, okay.
They may have an answer to one or two of the questions that you brought up. So,
okay, no, I'll definitely listen. That's a great way to expand your listener base.
Absolutely.
Keep those secrets.
Lorry, on behalf of Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. And we really look forward to watching the development of offshore wind in the United States.
Okay, Lucas and Eric, thank you very much. And all the best in your podcast travels.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Well, we are back. And that was a fantastic interview to kick off season 3, don't you think?
Yeah, that was awesome. It's always super cool to talk to people that are like on the ground doing wind energy. So it's super cool.
He's not on the ground, man. He's in the boat. He's a pirate.
Wow.
He's offshore.
Yeah. Literally, yes.
I've always appreciated Lorry and his former colleague Dave Karpinski at Lake Erie Energy Development. Trying to do a Great Lakes wind project, first one out, was always an issue, and they're going to get there. And now we have all this other momentum that we'll probably talk a little bit about, especially with the state of New York here in a couple minutes. But Lucas, I know you wanted to toast the new year, so turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let our listeners know that I have a long list of things I felt that were worth celebrating, milestones in the industry. I mean, it's good to step back and celebrate. So we wanted to invite you guys to get your favorite beverage out, your favorite sparkling apple juice or whatever you like to drink. And, we'll give you some time to do that. So Eric, why don't we do your articles first? Is that all right?
Yeah, and I only have a couple articles, especially after the good mojo from Lorry's interview, but some of them are relevant. So if you are pulling them up as we speak, why don't we go to the Buffalo News one?
Oh, yeah. All right.
So, we're always trying to find news sources. This is the Buffalo News from Tom Precious. Reminds me of Lord of the Rings. January 13th, 2021. Cuomo promotes new efforts to expand renewable energy in New York. Of course, here in the Northeast, this has been the talked about headline. This is Governor Cuomo's State of the State speech last week, and he went hot and heavy announcing a myriad, and I love using the word myriad, of new green energy projects in New York State, construction starting immediately. The big one, of course, he's announcing 2 offshore wind projects that'll generate 2,490 megawatts of power generation, going towards his goal of 9,000 of wind generated megawatts in the state by 2035. First off, he missed a little bit of timing there. He should have been 2.21 gigawatts, so he can totally tie it into Back to the Future, but that's for another story.
Definitely.
He's talking about 500 construction jobs, 300 permanent jobs. The Port of Albany is actually going to be manufacturing the towers. I'm personally excited about that because I'll get to look out my window and see the towers going down the Hudson River by barge. I can't wait for the first one I see. I'll go crazy. Also, 23 solar farms, 1 hydro project, creating kind of a green energy corridor. Also working on transmission solutions, especially in Western New York around Niagara. This is really going to be fantastic and great news. I like the Buffalo News story because it wasn't all good news. There's some opposition to one of the larger solar projects in Western New York, a little bit of a NIMBY issue. And I think the Buffalo News also rightfully talked about some of the things that Cuomo didn't really bring up. The cost of storage, energy storage. What else is needed in the grid to get this done? Are we going to be cutting the cord with our relationship with Canada in New York State, where Canada provides a lot of power to New York? let's celebrate. These are great, fantastic big picture ideas. Governor Cuomo has a track record of getting it done, but I think there's some questions that still need to be answered. So overall, great story.
Yeah, this is great. This is one of mine for that we're going to celebrate. So it was great to see this. Some of the quotes in here are really good. Where was the one he says, "It's a necessity, enough talk. It's time for us to act now." Oh, awesome.
Fantastic. Yep. Fantastic. So,
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go to the next one? Because I know you're going to focus a little more on New York as well.
All right.
So great story in the New York Times. We had several of our listeners send this to us to talk about. This came from last week. I don't know what day it was, but electric cars are better for the planet and often for your budget too, by Veronica Penny, January 15th. This is a great story, and I recommend people to go on New York Times website and to pull it up because there's some really great interactive graphics, right? But this effectively is getting to the point of which Lucas and I have talked about many times over many episodes. Electric vehicles have a premium right now. We all know about the premium to pay. Tax credits help you with some of that premium pricing, but cost of ownership is substantial. And I think we're starting to hit the sweet spot where, first off, you should be able to buy a brand new electric vehicle and should be able to hold on to it greater than the 11 years average of the average car on the road right now in terms of their age. You can really hold on because in terms of parts and maintenance, there's going to be such little maintenance compared to an internal combustion engine vehicle that you're going to be able to hold on to it longer. The downside, of course, and I think this is starting to get rectified, is battery degradation and its effect on depreciation. Electric vehicles depreciate because the first generation of BEVs that hit the road had serious battery degradation. The stories are all well known. Chevy Spark, the first generation Leaf, the batteries just didn't last as long. People who live in winter states, you have degradation in the winter that leads to longer term degradation. These are being addressed right now. Very happy about that. The used market, as we've talked about, is somewhere where you want to consider. I'm going off the article a little bit, but GM announced 0% financing on certified pre-owned bolts and volts just for I think until February. So people are in the market, you can get 0% financing. Take a look at that. Anyone who's watching us online, Lucas is focused on his carbon dioxide emissions per mile. And you're going to see the Nissan Leaf is almost nothing. And of course, the Lexus GX, Toyota Sequoia, they're way the heck up there. Toyota, of course, is well known for putting hybrids on the road. So I'm not knocking Toyota by any means. They are part of the conversation stimulator to get us in the EVs. But this is a great story, and there's a lot of good information here. And it's just people are finally starting to get convinced that ownership costs are where the savings really is.
Yeah, I think they make a very important point is you have to look at levelized cost of ownership. That's total lifetime cost divided by the lifetime of the vehicle. So, this makes a good point here too, that the Nissan Altima retails at $26,800 and the Tesla Model 3 retails at $37,900. But over their lifetimes, they have the same cost. So too many people are focusing on the sticker price and not looking at the full lifetime cost of the vehicle. It's way, way lower. The fuel's cheaper, the maintenance is cheaper and non-existent almost in electric vehicles. So when you look at it this way, the compelling story for electric vehicles is just huge. I mean, this graph says it all. You're not outside of any region of traditional gas powered cars as far as cost goes. You're actually on the lower half, but you're way lower in terms of carbon dioxide impact. So,
right. And many Americans, they focus on monthly payment for their vehicles, so that's why they're turned off by EVs. But if monthly payment is your only payment, where all your other maintenance costs of the car, those payments go down, then your total cost of ownership is something to factor. And Lucas, you hit it right there. And last thing, I think this graph reminds me of that iceberg heading towards the penguins. So, it's all coming together, people. It's all coming together.
yeah,
Good story. I really recommend people to take a look online at New York Times for this one.
Yeah, it was a great one.
All right, last one. Always try to find something a little bit off the wall. But this is I thought it was a very heartwarming story. This was in the Jerusalem Post. I'm not sure how I found this article, but Caribbean environmental disaster meets Israeli innovation. This is from Hege Hekanon on, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, January 3rd, so earlier in our time off. But a type of algae is prolific in the Caribbean, leads to heartbreak because many people go to the Caribbean and want to see pristine beaches, and they see seaweed and algae everywhere. Well, this algae can actually be turned into biomaterial to power Caribbean island economies, including hotels, conference centers, etc. So Israeli technology experts, and anyone who's been to Israel knows, they are one of the greatest countries in terms of tech innovation. They're actually fielding efforts to turn Caribbean seaweed into biomaterial for power production. And there was a couple other articles I read as a follow-up to this, where even in Israel, they're using seaweed in several different ways. And of course, food production is a big part of it right now, to create very powerful mineral-rich dietary supplements. But in terms of power generation, they're talking about building eco parks in the Dominican Republic, in different parts of the Caribbean area. This is fantastic. Totally recommend it. Again, it's an all of the above solution to get where we need to be. And maybe this isn't the most productive, most easy use of capital, but the types of solutions that are local and creating jobs and creating local green power always should be looked at thoroughly. And this is one of those stories.
Yeah, I just love cases like this where they take a problem and they switch it around into a solution and a resource, which is what I love. They talk about the plastic islands also. And there was this other interesting thing too, that governments can change left or right, but universities remain, and so they work with those academic centers, and that works really well. So really interesting story. Yeah.
I agree. And, we've all been talking, just as a side to that, we've all been talking about the change of administration. There's an inauguration tomorrow, all the enthusiasm towards green energy because of Biden is endorsing it so much. But it's not like a lot of that work went away over the last 4 years. It's always been there. The Department of Energy over the last 4 years has been promoting green energy projects, maybe some of it a little bit under the radar, but now it's going to flourish just that much more. But we're not starting over again. And I think that's important. You're pointing out that paragraph, Lucas, reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm done. Those are my three, quick and easy. Lucas, let's go do some celebrating.
All right, are we ready to celebrate? All right, here we go. I think I have 9 things that we can celebrate. I got my trusty drink right here. You got your drink ready?
I do. I've got my last Offshore from my neighbor.
We're gonna
Cheers.
ding.
Clink.
I don't know. Can you hear that? All right, good.
I heard it.
We're gonna do a lot of clinking. All right, here we go. So first one, this was from PV Tech. This is January 8th. Kauai, the Hawaiian island of Kauai, is going to do a solar plus pumped hydro project. This is awesome. It's going to bring the island up to 80% renewables, greater than 80% renewables. So all you naysayers said it couldn't be done. It's being done, and they're going to do it with hydro, and they're going to do it with solar, which I love, love, love. Oh, awesome. Worth celebrating. Yeah.
Clinking with my pen and beer bottle.
All right.
Nice job.
I'll get an applause track. We'll put it in here. Awesome work, Hawaii. Keep it up. It's going to be cool. All right, next one here. PV Magazine from December 21st. This is going back a little ways. New York is going to host a 400 megawatt hour battery. This is going to be in New York City. It was contracted with Con Edison. Storage is real in New York. It's going to happen. Very cool to see. Congrats. Thank you, Gene Haggerty, for bringing this to us. Cheers. Yeah, awesome.
Cheers. Blink.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's such a huge storage project.
Looking good. 2021, starting off with a bang.
Right in the city. Huh? Awesome. Can't get any better than that. All right, next here, number 3. Green Tech Media. This is from Jeff St. John. We talk about him a lot. January 13th. New York's latest clean energy push includes 2.5 gigawatts of offshore wind contracts. Yes.
What's a gigawatt? I can't.
Yes, New York.
Should it be 2.21 gigawatts? All about marketing, Momo. All about marketing.
They should have split it into 2 projects. One that was 1.21 and the other one that was the remainder.
What's a gigawatt?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
It'll be built by DeLorean.
I hope so, yes. All right, what's next? What are we on? Number 4. Utility Drive. This comes to us from Utility Drive. Federal stimulus includes wind, solar, tax credit extensions. Yes. First U.S. offshore wind tax credit. Yes. Celebrate. Yes.
Let's celebrate. And Lori brought this up. And we're seeing
Woo.
tangible results already.
Yes. Cheers.
A beautiful photo of the Capitol building there. Let's
Winning with snow.
As a symbol of freedom, enduring freedom.
With snow. Beautiful. Winning. Yes. Very happy. Worth celebrating. Yes, we should be happy about this. Raise your glasses. All right, what are we on? Number 5. This from Energy Storage News. Battery pack prices reported to be below $100 a kilowatt hour for the first time ever. Yes. Yes. I know for decades, this has been like, oh, we're going to get there some year. We're going to get, yeah, right, whatever. We're here. Yes, we made it.
Here. We're here. Thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you, General Motors. Thank you, all of those who didn't give up, never gave up. And that's a key. That's a Rocky Balboa type of friend. Never give up.
Yeah. And it's going to be in your local store by 2023. I'm sure this was some giant project that was priced at 100, but anyhow, it's here. It's real.
It's nipping at the bud.
What are we on? Number 6 now? No, number 5. I don't know what. Number 6. This one from Energy Environment Leader from January 6th. World's largest utility scale battery energy storage system now online. Yes.
Oh, where's this at? Where's this
Emily Holbrook. This is 300 megawatts, 1,200 megawatt hours, lithium ion. This is in Monterey County, California. Awesome. Love it. Awesome.
Congratulations, California. Thank you for being the leader that you are in green energy. Happy New Year.
It's happening. Yes. Cheers.
And congrats on one of your own becoming the first female vice president who also has a track record of promoting green energy. Very happy about that.
Awesome. Awesome to see. Love it. Love it. Love it. We're having such a great time. All right. Next, New Jersey Spotlight. Well, we did New York. We got to do New Jersey. It's only fair. PSEG is expected to bring smart meters to New Jersey. Yes, it's about time. They've been behind just about everybody with smart meters. We're getting them. Cheers. Yes.
The headline is great. Headline is great, but then the sub-headline, we're not sure how it's going to be done, but it's going to be done. That's kind of like how we do a podcast.
But you will be paying for it.
Well, I'll pay for it. Don't worry.
I don't care. You know, as an analyst, I want that data, so I'm just very happy. So I'm sure we'll figure all that out. And I love their 1995 Windows 95 screen that shows you what you're going to get. I mean, thanks for that. New Jersey Spotlight.com. Let's see. What else we got here? Oh, I love this one. I thought this was definitely worth celebrating. Massachusetts is going to require all new cars sold, all of them, to be electric by 2035.
Absolutely. Yes. I am so happy. I forgot to put this in my queue. I'm glad you picked this up. I saw this right after our last episode. And that photo has a Prius, a Tesla, and a grocery cart. I don't know what they're saying with the grocery cart.
I don't care. It's worth celebrating. Yes. We're running into this weird period now where I don't think people are realizing that if you buy a long-lived asset now that's burning carbon, you're still going to have it in 2050. So I don't know where all these 0% by 2050 projections, I don't know what these people are thinking. Like, you got to start now.
I 100% agree. And we're getting there. Look at how your articles are correlating. We're under $100 kilowatt hour on battery packs. And by the time 2035 comes around, it's going to be $15, $20. Maybe not.
Wow, maybe not that much, but it's going to be killer. Yeah, it'll probably be, I think they said 67 by 2030 or something like that.
Awesome.
I don't know. We can go back and check. All right, I'm going to keep rolling. This one from Popular Mechanics. I saw this one December 21. This is right at the end of the last season. Solar cell just set an astounding energy efficiency record. They set this pure efficiency of 29.15%. This is for a certain type of solar panel. Yes, love this. Yes, I love this. There's still more research to be done. There's more efficiency we can get. We can keep pushing. Solar is going to be more and more awesome the more we work on this. Cheers. Yes.
Cheers. And you know what's great? We didn't talk about this, but a lot of this innovation is taking place in the United States. We're catching up to Europe and the rest of the world in terms of green innovation. That's what America used to always be about, was being the first and the foremost in innovation. So we're angry now. We're moving forward. We're green. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. We need innovation jobs here. I don't want to see, tough, hard, unhealthy jobs come back to the US. I want to see more engineering, more design, more R&D, more engaging, interesting, fun,
Well,
highly technical jobs in this country.
but even the manufacturing jobs that should be coming back are not our father's manufacturing jobs.
Well, correct.
I've been on steel mills where you can eat off the floor because all the workers are walking around with iPads working on the automation equipment. So you're not going to have 1,000 people in a steel mill anymore. You're going to have 300, but it's going to be a smart 300. And not the people I'm saying, like, people are always smart, but the 300 jobs are going to be a cleaner job, a better environment.
I hope so. Yes, that's what I want. All right, last one here. This one from Utility Dive. This one is brand new, so I snuck it in here. Wind and solar is going to make up 70% of new U.S. generating capacity in 2021. Yes, batteries are gaining momentum. Yes, this is what I want to see. I think we set records last year. We're going to set more records this year. We need to be building renewable energy and not carbon energy. This is what we need to do. This is fantastic news. We're celebrating. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Lucas, you did such a great job. These are such good, optimistic stories. We're entering a new year after probably one of the hardest, toughest years we've ever faced for most of us. And now we have a sense of optimism. We have a vaccine coming. People need to stay safe. But what we're doing going forward to protect our planet is something where all of society is understanding what we're doing. And these articles just reflect that.
Yeah, I think, for those of us who have been fighting for clean energy for 10, 20 years, it's been rough. It's been hard. It's been difficult. And to finally have some huge wins like this, I really wanted to take a minute and just celebrate with my friends and say, hey, we're starting to get some work done. We started to get change. This is great. I cannot be happier. So cheers. I'm glad you guys are with us, and let's keep pushing. Let's make this decade even better than the last one. Let's do it.
I think well said, Lucas. And I've been really proud that you invited me in to be co-host of this podcast last year, because I feel like we're carrying the flag right now. And all of our guests that we've had since season 1 are contributors to the cause. And so they should be raising a glass, and we raise a glass to salute them. And I really want to say thank you to our guests. And I got to tell you, Lorry was such a great kickoff to season 3. And wait until you see some of the guests we've lined up for this year. And it tells us we could take a lot of credit for being the podcast gurus, but the reality is people want to have these conversations. And that's very, very important for us.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but we're going to have some awesome guests this season.
Awesome. Capital A. Fantastic.
Capital A.
And you know what? It's just, they complement our great guests we had to help us get to where we are. So I'm so proud of it. Everyone is a contributor. And again, not to get too sappy, but when we got the information over the holiday that we're averaging nearly 2,000 listeners per episode, that told us that people really want to be engaged. We were so proud of that. We were so happy about that. What we do here at Pirates of Clean Tech is because of you, our listeners. And we salute you. Please raise a glass and thank yourselves. And let's continue the message.
There we go. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. And of course, I need to do this because now more than ever, the views and opinions expressed by Lucas and Eric are those of solely Lucas and Eric and not necessarily of any organization we are affiliated with.
Yeah, and you can find us on your favorite podcast site. Just search for Pirates of Clean Tech, and you click the little follow button or the subscribe. Also, you can go on YouTube if you want to see our not so beautiful faces and the articles as we talk about them. You click on the subscribe button. That helps us out. And then there's a little alarm bell after you do that, so you get notifications. I know I continue to see news stories pop up that we talked about weeks ago. So you'll get the best news and the best analysis and hard-hitting opinions here first if you click the bell and you get the notification. So please join us.
Awesome. And once again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to those who reached out to us over the holiday break and sent us questions, sent us articles. We want this to be kind of a living family podcast for everybody. We want you to feel like you are a pirate, and we want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Lorry Wagner, our guest. Great kickoff, great background, great visual. He was a part of the conversation that propels 2021 forward. And with that, I am Eric Planey.
I am Lucas Finko.
Happy New Year, everyone. Together we all are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Yarr. Arrgh.